Yeah, we'll see if we can make it through the introduction in one take. We'll see how I do.
usually Branden's pretty good at it.
He is. That's true.
Yeah, but you guys are usually the ones introducing when we have a guest. So I've got the guest pressure. So I don't know if I might just crumble under that. Hey, welcome to the JRPG Pursuit podcast, all about. Nope.
He already broke.
I fumbled a little bit.
Head.
It's all right.
You got in my head. Hey, welcome to the JRPG Pursuit, your JRPG podcast for all things JRPGs. I'm Branden.
I'm Abdallah.
And I'm Emily.
And we are really excited to bring this episode to you all today. As you know, or as you might assume if you're a new listener, we really like JRPGs on this podcast. We talk about the games that we're playing and the games that we collect and all that fun stuff. But we are also thrilled to be able to talk about the kind of the media that exists around our favorite games, right? So it's with that in mind that we are very excited to introduce the author of the VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana official novelization, Anna Kashina, to the podcast. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone.
So tell us a little bit about
Hello.
yourself and some of your previous work, and just give us the biography.
All the deets.
The deets.
Yeah. So, I've been writing fantasy since I was maybe 6 years old. By now I published 7 fantasy novels, and mostly I write adventure fantasy with some elements of romance. I also love role-playing games, and I love them primarily for the stories. And when I played VIII, I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I felt like I never did this before, but I absolutely had to write this novelization. So everything kind of fortunately aligned. And then, so this is my latest project, and I'm completely kind of in this world now. So, yeah.
Now I'm really curious, like, how that conversation started. How did you pursue it? Like, what went on there?
Oh gosh. So first, I played the game, and as I was playing it, it was such an amazing feeling, like everything clicked. I feel like I could have written this novel, and I wish I knew more about this. I wish I could tell this story. It's like, how did Dana learn to sword fighting, for example? Yeah, I just really wanted to know that. So then after I finished it, I started thinking maybe there should be a book about this game, right? So I started looking for it, and there was none. And then eventually I thought, if there's no book, then there has to be one. I have to write it. So I first approached my agent, and my agent actually said that, without a publisher interested in this work, there's probably no way, because Nihon Falcon doesn't have any existing arrangement with any publishers. So eventually Dragonwell Publishing is a small press, which I kind of help run in some ways. I'm very closely connected to it. So I was so insistent that Dragonwell Publishing reached out to Nihon Falcon, and to our greatest joy, they agreed to license this project to us. So this is kind of how it came about. And then
Interesting.
So unique, I think, in the space.
Yeah. Like I've had that thought myself as I've played some games over the years. I'm like, there needs to be a book. I would write this book, and then I never did it. So thanks for doing it.
But I got to do it first. But it was
You broke new ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And it gives motivation to a lot of other people who have that same thought process, that like you can, it's worth a shot. I mean, the worst thing they can do is say no, but the best thing they can do is say yes. So you got the best case scenario, and it's amazing that you were able to give it that opportunity to write this.
Yeah, no, I feel really lucky. So Dragonwell Publishing has been in business for like 15 years by now. They published a lot of authors and a lot of books. So it was lucky that they were at the spot where they were in a position to start this project. But I think I really drove it through.
Yeah.
Most of the way.
So was VIII your first Ys game, or had you played others before?
No, it was my first Ys game.
Okay.
And I think it is this way for many Western players.
It is the big entry point, for most people that didn't play the TurboGrafx version or whatever back in the like early 90s or late 80s or whatever.
Yeah. It was the first major Ys game too that had more of a story to it than just kind of pure action combat. So I could see why you were drawn to it.
But I was actually fascinated when I started working on this project. I connected with the IS community and IS fans. So the first IS games were kind of, as you know, probably the graphics was not the way it is now. They were pretty short compared to the games right now, but there's a very devoted following there. So people love the story and the characters. And I think this is also, so I think we all feel this draw. It's not just like this story is so amazing, but the whole premise, I think the whole series and the characters, people feel very personal about them.
Yeah, I think following Adol's journey and, different moments of his life, it's been really cool to piece together, I think, throughout the series.
Yeah. Right.
When you started, thinking about the process of writing this novel, and you became aware of, were you already aware of the long running fervent fandom behind the series? Was that an intimidating factor to I'm stepping in here to write this novel and there's all these excitable fans here? It's how did that go?
Yeah, well, actually, so when I wrote the novel, I wasn't thinking about it at all. And I think it's because I'm used to writing my own novels. I create the world and I write. So here, of course, I took what was already there, but I wanted to write the book that I would love to read. And I think this is a primary motivation probably for any author. So you can't think of readers when you write it. You think of what is the best possible book that you would like to have in your hands. But then after I finished it, then I realized that there's a fandom and they may not see things the way I do. So I can tell you that first I reached out to this website that's called Digital MLS.
Yes.
It's not they actually reached out to us, but Dragonwell Publishing alerted them to this project. And then they sent me a list of questions they wanted to ask. And then it's oh my God, they have opinions on this, they know this. And if I got it wrong, I'm dead.
Oh, no.
That was really intimidating.
They're keepers of the deep lore.
They were interrogating you, making sure you were.
Yeah.
That's.
And I feel really fortunate that I was able to connect. So I think other people understand this game the way I do. And I think it kind of really resonated, and I feel really lucky. It's I think it's just because the stars aligned.
No, I think it's what makes a big difference that you came out, you came into this from being outside of the fandom, because you come into it from a more objective perspective of experiencing the story and then writing it the way you think a writer should, how a writer should build this world. How a writer should approach this. And so when you're stuck in the fandom, you get kind of caught up in a lot of different drama, I would say, almost if you think about how things need to be done or what you think needs to happen based off of your own opinions.
All that.
Exactly. There's so much compounded knowledge that people who are really deep in the lore will affect their ability to do a maybe more objective look at what the story needs to be. So it's incredible, coming in from that perspective, I think has done you really well from that.
Yeah, and I think, so when I was introducing myself, I neglected to mention that in my day job, I'm also a scientist. So, and then, for both writing and science, I'm used to doing a lot of research. So I really did my research. So I
wanted to ask you that because I'm also a STEM PhD. So it's very cool to see that merge.
I think it really helps. So people were saying, so for example, units of measure in the IS world, like Crimilla and Melee. So they're saying, of course, you don't know what it is. I mean, not only do I know, I measured everything with a ruler. I know down to millimeters, like the geography of the Isle of Siren and the whole world, of course.
That's actually, that's incredible.
That's incredible. Yeah.
When you were approaching the book and, after playing IS VIII and you were looking into writing this, did you go back and start play much of the earlier games in your process of research, or did you kind of contain yourself to just this, what you thought was a story of VIII and maybe things lightly around it?
Yeah. No, before I started it, I played all the games in the series.
Okay.
Except I think IS V, which is not translated.
Not translated,
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And I think it did help me to kind of get my head into the world, even though after this I went back to IS VIII, of course.
Of course. Yes.
Did you were you inspired by other JRPG novelizations? I know there's a lot like Square Enix titles have, like for Final Fantasy VII or any of kind of, I guess, works that are in like a similar vein?
Yeah, to be honest, no, I didn't really. So yeah, I think there's a lot of books written based on the same worlds. I'm not aware of many straight novelizations where they take the exact story. And I think, these books, I do read a lot of fantasy, but actually before this project, I was a romance writer, so I read a lot of fantasy romance, or I'm like fantasy writer with elements of romance. My books are not romance, but it's kind of, this lighter toned love stories. I think a lot of books based on other JRPGs are kind of heavily into fighting and character classes and, the stuff that doesn't really attract me to fantasy, I have to say.
Yeah, more of like the shonen sort of method that you see in a lot of JRPGs.
Yeah, you see a lot of like novels a lot these days that are kind of in that like I think that lit RPG almost is like the genre where they go into like the mechanics of the world where like they're actually leveling up or their ways of things like that. So there's a whole
Yeah.
But also having said all that, there's a lot of similarity between fantasy writing and gaming because so when you start a fantasy novel, if you want to create a world, you have to create it. You have to be fluent in it because when people are talking, they refer to like places, things.
Yeah.
So you have to know your world inside out, but you don't necessarily. In a game, you also put it all into the game. In a book, it's kind of like an iceberg. You show a small tip of it, but you also
having internal consistency, right?
Yeah, no like weird, plot holes, if you will, or world, holes, whatever you call those.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just curious did Falcom have any like requirements, stipulations for the project as you were going? Like, did you have to check in with them? What was that process?
Yeah, so to be honest, they didn't. So they were extremely supportive. They always gave us the artwork, and they kind of always gave us everything we asked for, and they did not interfere with the process, which to me was kind of. So I was, of course, really respectful to the source and to the original, but so if they tried to kind of give a lot of heavy input, it would have been difficult, even though we would have respected it as well, of course. So they were. Actually, so we've sent them the finished book before it was printed, and they did read through it and approve it, but it's kind of overall, we didn't have any hurdles there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I feel like Falcom's very protective of their IPs, not just Ys, but like their other ones too. So to give you a little bit of freedom to like, come up with something.
Yeah.
And then, see the finished product.
True. I assume if I came up with a bad product, they would have problems.
Yeah, if they had an issue with it, I'm sure you would have gotten it back with some notes.
Probably. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. That's amazing. In terms of the story too, like I know Adal's character is a silent protagonist, so I'd be interested to kind of get your how did you navigate like his approach to the character and everything, and taking that in mind.
Yes, it's very interesting because I think a lot of people were kind of, when I announced this novelization, they were freaking out, like, Abdallah was going to speak.
Yeah.
So in reality, we all love Abdallah. So it's one of the favorite characters, exactly because he has a strong personality. So he may not have a lot of text, but everybody knows what he's like, what he would do, what he would never do. So I think, and in my case, so when I write a character, I get into their heads. I have to completely understand these characters. I also have to know exactly what Adal would or would not do or say. And I think after this, it kind of becomes easier because when you really absorb this character and you feel like you understand the character, so everything he says and does becomes very natural. So to me, it was very kind of, easy thing to have him talk. So I couldn't understand why everybody was so, kind of.
Because we kind of paint that picture in our heads, and they give us enough breadcrumbs to be able to do it. That's kind of why I'm not going to rant. I'm just letting my co-host know I'm not going to go off on a rant. But I feel like they need to just they've been kind of flirting with the idea of letting him speak in 8, 9, and 10. They've been giving him more voiced lines and a lot more like dialogue choices that you make as a player. And I'm like, you're so close, guys. Just let him just do it. We all know who he is. He's not a fully player insert character. He has a personality, right? So anyway,
I think in VIII he actually does have a piece of text, which
quite a bit more.
Yeah,
that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say that him being, I guess, more silent in the games, like, gave you a little bit more flexibility of how to phrase, like, his dialogue in the book?
Yeah.
And how does that compare to maybe the other characters who were speaking?
Yeah. So, actually, I forgot to say that, I don't write games, but when I think in the game, the main character is intentionally silent because they want the player to insert themselves into this.
Yeah.
And I think, so Adol kind of still has strong personality despite that. So you insert yourself not into a blank spot, but into some like very defined person. Right. So I tried to stay very faithful to the game. So actually, as a first step in my novel writing, I played the game and I wrote down the exact dialogue in the game. And I also wrote down all my thoughts, descriptions. So by the end of this playthrough, it took a long time, but I had like a very long outline of a novel already. And then I went through all the dialogues and I tried to not use the same wording, but just tried to understand what these characters were trying to say. So dialogues in the game, again, so some of them are true to the thoughts, and actually some of the lines are very good. Some of them are not really, so they're confusing, I don't know, partly in translation and partly because people are not thinking about like what exactly this person is saying. So it was like writing the whole dialogue all over again. But I think in this sense, again, so I had to understand all the characters and it became very natural. So I think I actually believe that so when you achieve this kind of balance that you're ready to write a novel, everybody talks naturally. So you don't have to think what they would say. It would just come like this person would say that in this situation. And
Which,
go ahead.
I was going to ask, which game did you play when you were making your notes? Was it the PlayStation 4 version, the Vita version? I know there's a more recent PS5 game, which I'm assuming was after when you started this process.
So I had Nintendo Switch. So actually, I have to thank my children for this whole project because we bought a Switch for them during the pandemics. Oh, okay. And then we started playing those games, and then I came across VIII, and this is how it all started. So I played the Switch version. I know that the version doesn't have a complete story, so I feel like really, really fortunate that it was.
The Vita one was the initial one, and then there were some like localization, changes throughout all the different versions for E. So we were just curious which one you originally found. So that's cool. Yeah.
So I think it was several years after the game came out, so it was like the latest version of the translation, and
good.
It had all the stories.
Because the original version of the translation for the PS4 was. It's definitely a rough time. It would have made your job a lot harder.
I don't know if you would have been drawn to it. If you
that's true.
were first introduced to that one and seen the writing, you're like,
they did it. They did a number on it, fixing it up. Like it's night and day.
And the Vita one's still good. Like I think you can't even if the localization's a little bit rough, it's still a great story. Despite that,
it does shine through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very glad they fixed the translation, but I think, the story is still there. So.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
We're curious, too, if there's any aspects of the game story that you really wanted to include but weren't able to. I know that, the Castaway Tales came out, and maybe that's the answer to this question, but I'm wondering if there's anything else in the story that didn't make it into either book.
Yeah. So, actually, I made sure that no matter how long this book is, everything that I consider important to the main story has to be in the book. And also side quests that show off characters also made it into the book. So, I didn't compromise on that. But then, of course, I was left with a lot of side quests, which I loved, and they didn't make it into the main story. So I did have to write Castaway Tales. And Castaway Cookbook because I want all the characters to speak.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. That's the dream, is to have I don't know, the idea of reading a novel, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, but the idea of reading a novel of the game that I love so much. I had experience as a kid reading the Myst novels. I don't know if you're familiar with Myst.
Yes, I played Myst.
Reading the novels from that universe, and it's just something that I've loved since I was a kid. And there's been, in America at least, so relatively few novelizations or novels in the world of games. So yeah, I remember when this was announced, I was like, oh yes, like this is this is the real deal for me. So
I was actually curious because when we started publicizing this novel, it turns out that the community of gamers and fantasy readers are almost kind of two separate communities. And so I think fans of my book are mostly in this space. So these are the people who love gaming but also read books. So it's like this overlap, which is relatively small compared to either one. So people who only read fantasy feel like game novelization is not serious. So I actually feel like the story is just really amazing, and it's like it doesn't matter that it's a game novelization; it's like a real story. But
right, a good story is a good story.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably maybe in the marketing stuff that might have been difficult to,
hard
try
to reach
to
across.
cater. Yeah, those two different, markets, and because the intersection, there is an intersection. I grew up with a lot of romantic fantasy, probably very similar to what you write, and also love JRPG stories. And I'm hoping that overlap will become a little bit bigger over time.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Too. I think it's kind of a mental barrier. I think it's not.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, there just needs to. I mean, there needs to be books need to come out, right? Like this is the first big step in a while. Having Lacrimosa of Donna, that's the first step, and then we keep that process going, and hopefully more games get this treatment, and then maybe that barrier comes down. So
because I feel like fantasy writing and games have always gone hand to hand growing up for me. I grew up reading lots of fantasy, from Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series to George R. Martin's to everything. So I that was very integral to me growing up. But at the same time, that's what also got me into JRPGs, is that story aspect of these JRPGs. So they do have incredible stories. It's just how you market them to people who aren't necessarily in the gaming sphere and don't understand that, because when you describe games to people, it's just like, oh, it's just it's just a game. It's not going to have that heavy of a story. It's not going to be as intricate as something as Game of Thrones or anything like that. You're not expecting that from that, but you can get some games that you can novelize into a way that is comparable, honestly. And I think it's just the marketing aspect to that. And,
Have you also found it difficult being a fantasy romance author, trying to break into the more fantasy genre, if you will? Because I know there's barriers in that space as well.
No, I think it's so I didn't so kind of when I say I'm a romance author, people in the fantasy world correct me, because I think my books do have usually have a love story or love interest, but that's not the focus.
It's not the focus.
Whereas the main thing. So I think in fantasy genre there are different kind of areas. But I never thought, so fans of my books are always I never had any restrictions, because there's a category of fans who like my fantasy books, and they like them just the way they are. And I think, once I wrote a kind of more explicit romance, and some of the fans were unhappy, but other fans I got new fans from that.
It's the give and take of
I think it's
casting a wider net.
Right, exactly.
For sure.
I think
and
the
variety.
interesting take on it was when so in VIII, of course. So to me there was a romance in that story, but to about half of the fan there is not. Half of the fans there is no romance. So I think there was a lot of kind of anxiety about how am I going to handle it being a romance author, and I felt extremely gratified, because when my book came out, Mr. Kondo, who's the president of Nihon Falcom, actually read my book, and he did an interview in which he specifically highlighted a scene where, kind of the love scene in my book. And after this, I think all this conversation stopped, because he really validated my view of it.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it was really, so to me, it was kind of a scary point, because people are saying romance author writing about adult, no way. And then people say he's in love with Fina and there's nobody else in his life. So that's terrifying.
Interesting. Jumping off of that to kind of skip to this other thing that we were thinking about, is that you said Kondo read it. Is there a translation to it that's in Japanese, or
Is it just English?
There's no translation, so we sent them the books, and when he did an interview, he showed a lot of knowledge of the books, so I understood that he
Yeah.
I
I noticed that we noticed that they're selling them, like Neon Falcom's site has like the collector sets and everything, and I was like, that looks just like the English version, so we weren't sure. That's interesting.
Was there ever talks about maybe potential translations to Japan? Because there's a lot of Ys fans, of course, in Japan.
Right. Well, I mean, so fans keep asking us about it, so we we would need to partner with somebody because, of course, my Japanese is not really good. Honestly, people are talking about other languages. Yeah.
But you're all at least open to it, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But going back to your other stories with the short stories and the cookbook, how did you propose those? Were they kind of accepted right away? Like, oh, I want to write more? And are you guys okay with more?
So I think, so once we had an established relationship with Nihon Falcoms, we just, so every time kind of a project is proposed, they usually approve it, even though, So I said, I really wanted to write those books. And so cookbook, everybody was doubtful, but Nihon Falcom kind of let us do whatever. So I think they always want to see a finished product and to make sure it's respectful to the original. But other than that, I think they're
Do you do a lot of cooking yourself, or how did that come about?
So in my day job, I'm a biochemist. So to be a biochemist, you kind of need to know how to cook. So I do love to invent new recipes. So I don't really. So I'm trying to think, how did it come about? So I felt like each of these recipes has a character in it. So I thought, what if I wrote a kind of each would be like a mini story from a particular character's point of view. So I tried to cover as many characters as possible. And then I took this challenge. So in the game, there's like 2 or 3 ingredients in each recipe, right? So how do I make a dish with like 3 ingredients? So I actually cooked all of them. And I discovered a lot of interesting things. For example, honey, turns out, is a very good ingredient to go with meat. Also, I was trying to see, like, if I'm on a deserted island and I don't have like this and this and this, what do I do? So I think it became
the substitutes.
really fun project. And people were saying, oh, this would never sell. You should make it an appendix to the Castaway Tales. And I just kind of went with it.
No, I really, like I was really surprised. Like I didn't know it was a thing when I got the box. Maybe I'd read it, but I'd forgot that it was in there. And I'm just like, wow, looking at. I haven't made any yet, but then again, I'm not a cook, so
you should try them and tell us.
I will. I am 100% going to, but I'm a little scared to put myself in the kitchen in that way.
You're not a biochemist.
I do that HelloFresh, where they give you all the prepackaged ingredients. I can do that. That's easy enough. I can do that, but I don't know.
You should make a video of you cooking one of the recipes.
That's 100%. I'm going to try.
I would watch that 100%.
I'm going to do that. There's going to be it's going to be age gated right out of the gate.
Yeah, all the frustration has to come out. It's got to be funny.
Actually, there is a review that just came out on Amazon, which I felt very personal about. So this person said that they're a very good cook. And they cooked those dishes, but added all these ingredients that a good cook would know, but people on the Isle of Siren may not. And they said that with these additions, the recipes turned out very good. So they even posted some pictures of those recipes. But it kind of suggested without those additions, you're kind of on your own. But I was gratified that about half of the recipes my children also liked. So
hey,
that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
So I was encouraged.
Yeah.
And now, as far as the audiobook goes, like, how involved were you in that process? Like, reaching out to some of the actors, like I think is Kira Buckland. Yeah. Kira Buckland's one of them. Yeah. There's a few people that are from the game. Like, did you communicate with them, or was it all through the publisher? How does that work?
It was mostly, so up to some point it was all through the publisher. And I think our vision was to have the original actors who were like these characters in the game narrate the book. And then in the process of this interaction, we learned that actually book narration and voice acting are very different. So I didn't appreciate this difference. So we did speak to the original actors, and it turned out that just kind of audiobooks are kind of not their thing. So they're great at. So some of them just actively stay away from audiobooks, and others can
That's
do it
true.
in principle, but it's just like it's not. It's kind of like a secondary project for them. So. So what ended up happening in the end? So Kira Buckland is kind of this one exception because she is happy with both voice acting and book narration. I assume. I hope she's happy. But she did this for us, and that was great because she did it in this authentic Laxia voice. But in the end, so I went to the book narrators with whom I worked before in my other novels, who I really love. So Genevieve Swallow is my absolute favorite narrator. She narrated my Assassin Code books. And I just thought that she would be wonderful. And then I think Luke Francis turned out to be, to me, he sounded just like a perfect adult. So we ended up, at this point, I stepped in and we found these two actors. So yeah, this audiobook project turned out to be much more involved than I thought it would be. And I'm really glad it turned out this way. And in the process, I kind of wish that instead of the book, we could make an audio play where we use all the cast. This is, of course, like a whole different project.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that being easy.
That would be a big undertaking for sure.
Yeah.
And actually, on the point of voice actors, I also wanted to add, so we did this promotion where voice actors from the game recorded the recipes, and Dragonwell Publishing posted it on their website, on YouTube, And that's when I appreciated what the voice actors do, because you have like real friends telling us how to cook a pie or Hamel. And some of the actors, so Sean Chiplock, who voiced Hamel, he just he went off script, he went into character. So just
great.
Then I kind of wished we could have an audio book from the cookbook, which was like all these characters talking about the recipes. But it was, Patrick Sates for Doggy, he just did like an amazing job. So I listen to these recipes just kind of sometimes for my own enjoyment.
Yeah, that's like the involvement of folks that were, involved in the game just makes everything feel so much more coherent. Like it's possible. You can imagine a scenario in which somebody writes a novelization of a game that feels pretty disconnected from the original work and is not really even on the radar of the original creators unless they're, cashing a royalty check or whatever. But like Falcom and the actors and everything, like everybody just seems enthusiastic about it, which is, I think it really speaks to the fan community. It's like, this is for real. Like it's okay to take this seriously. Like this is for real. This is a legitimate thing that's being done here. So that works for me.
Yeah. I'm very grateful. And I was kind of, the way the voice actors feel so personal about their characters. They so they did it because they love their characters. And they, Jackie Laster, who voiced Ricotta, she was just like, so, I mean, and then of course, Kira Buckland was on this project too. And it just, it was very special to me. I felt very gratified.
Wow. Going back to the VIII localization, the novelization, the ending for the game is kind of considered a little divisive, I would say, in the fan community. Maybe not just Ease, but like JRPG community. How was your approach to it without giving major spoilers away, of course, for those who haven't played VIII yet?
Yeah, without major spoilers. That would be very
I know it's hard. It's very difficult to answer that.
The Vegas
if you can. If you can.
But the ending, it was interesting because even when I talked to fans about the ending, I think everybody understood it slightly differently. So I had to, of course, I had like serious arguments where I was quoting the Earth Goddess Maya. It's like, she said that, so that means that. And they were saying, oh, that's not how I understood it. So, and then we went to East 9 because like some people felt like at the end of East 8, everybody forgets this ever happened. But in East 9, Doggy talks about it, so he remembers. So, so I understood it a certain way, and of course, I wanted it to be a kind of as happy ending as possible and a satisfying ending. I don't like bad endings or sad, and I don't like open-ended endings. So I kind of carefully listened to everything that was said. I looked at all the words and I interpreted them a certain way, which to me was kind of the most positive that I could find. And
would you say like your experience in especially like romantic fantasy that kind of helped lead to a more happier ending, if you will?
Well, yeah,
that's what I like in my romantic fantasy. So,
right. Yeah, I think in my novel, Dana would have survived. Probably. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Spoilers. It's all right.
Yeah, well, she did survive. Though, so
it's more complicated than that. Yeah,
it is.
That's definitely
for those. Haven't played it yet.
I do enjoy that you brought up having to argue with people. So I feel like you really got ingrained into the fandom just by that language itself is just like, all right, you're deep in there.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Butting heads a little bit.
That's part of it. Yeah.
And that's wonderful too, because writing is a very lonely job.
Right.
So you almost never get to talk or interact with readers. I mean, you read reviews. Not all of them are positive, I can tell you. It's kind of just discussing with fans, like what would Abdallah do in this situation, or how do you interpret what he said there. It's just very rewarding. It was part of the special experience.
Yeah, especially since it's like a more communal story that everyone knows, rather than just your personal, story.
They have their own takes.
I'm sad and surprised that these games are not more popular than they are, because it's a niche community and that's like extremely devoted to this game. And so,
it's true. Yeah. Maybe one day Ease will be
so maybe
popular across.
It might help too.
I do think like at least 8 kind of helped.
Yeah, like since Ease 8, I'd be really curious to see how the fandom has grown, because I didn't start getting into East until just before 9 came out. Like I marathoned my way through the whole series because I knew 9 was coming out. And I was like, I think I need to just finally, in my late 30s, just do it. We're just going to finally do it. And I'm super glad that I did. And I'm thinking that East 8 and 9 and now 10 has to have, I don't know, feels like it has to have moved the needle. People, even that just like action RPGs, like, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think East 8 was the first game that was really widely publicized in the West, because it's console, they have a console version, and it was just
it was the first time I noticed a lot of marketing behind it.
Yeah, sure.
Before that, like I knew of Ease, and I knew I've seen Ease around, and I played like here and there, but I didn't really get into it as much. But it was on 8 when it was like really came to its own. So
East was always that weird series that like I would read about in magazines, where it's like it has CD quality audio. I just remember that being like the one thing I knew about East was on the TurboGrafx CD, and the music was supposed to be really good. And as like a game music nerd, I was excited by that, but I never got to experience it. So it was just always kind of that weird series that I would occasionally read about but never played. And now it's like one of my favorites. It's like, I could have been playing these my whole life instead of just waiting until middle age.
The amount of work and the amount of thought that went into this series, I think, is amazing. And it's so kind of in the process, I also learned that there are people who play games mostly for action, so they don't care so much about the story. They just care about like combat styles.
I think a lot of East fans are like that.
People lose out when they do that. Because
I've never been able to really understand that, but it's a thing for sure.
And the music is beautiful. And, on all these games, but East 1 and 2.
Their team is
Falcom has a very good
top notch.
Their music team is incredible.
And I think it's like this company doesn't compromise on quality really, so they put everything into each game, and I think that shows.
Do you have any influences of like the music I guess was applied directly to your writing, or like atmosphere maybe?
Well, so atmosphere, but so I have to say, so writing itself is so involved. So music, like some of the music is very intense. So my favorite kind of background music is this Castaway Village theme, because it's very calm and yeah, it kind of always puts me in a good mood. Sometimes when I was playing the game, I would just let adults stand in the village so I can listen to this music for a little bit. But yeah, so I don't usually listen to music when I write because it kind of, I need 100% attention and music takes away some of it. But yeah.
I have that same problem when I write things. When I'm writing something, I just like, if I have a music that's there's too much going on, too tense, or too many instruments, too involved, so much going on, I just can't focus. So I have to put something that's more ambient, like ambiotic, and like just feels ambience to it. Makes it much easier.
Right. Well, during your day job, do you listen to the music at all? Like that's what I do when I do a lot of statistical programming. And so whenever I do like medial kind of things, I just have my soundtracks on.
Nice. Background. Yeah, so kind of I'm probably a rare person. I don't listen to music as a background. I can't because it distracts me. So I can listen to music like as listening to music, but not. Yeah.
I'm the same way. I can't listen to music while I'm doing any kind of task, like a podcast or something like that. For some reason, that I'm able to do that, but music, I get too caught up in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel with the podcast, you just drift in and out anyways. So
yeah, it's not too bad. Like if it's one that I really want to pay attention to, that's a different story. But like if it's something that's just kind of on in the background,
Yeah, exactly.
Like this show, for example. No.
Yeah. So don't drift in and out of the show. Not like I said. But to
just calling everybody out right now.
Yeah.
To reel us back in, so we were wondering if there's any like scenes, specific types of scenes that you wrote through the book that were particularly your favorite, and also in that vein, the same vein, was there anything that was particularly like difficult, or I don't say difficult, challenging to write? So yeah.
So somehow, when I was writing this book, one of my favorite characters ended up being Franz. And I remember also talking about this to fans, and they're saying, "Oh, Franz is boring." So I was asking, like, what characters do you like? Nobody named Franz. I said, "How about Franz? Well, he's so boring." And I think it's because, in the game, his dialogue is kind of not consistent. But then if you think into it, so I chose Laxia as one of those 3 point of view characters because I felt like she is the one who actually has a happy love story, and I really wanted to flesh it out. So some of my favorites, I think one of my favorite scenes to write was the chapter where they found Franz, and Laxia sees him after thinking that for months that he is dead. So and I think the scenes between Laxia and Franz were like pure enjoyment. So I just wrote them kind of, But I did love almost everything about this book. So I think one of the most challenging was the first chapter. And this is because this is your first impression. So here I am writing a novelization of a game. Like, I don't know how the fans will take it.
Yeah.
And you have to make it interesting. You have to really resonate with the fans from the first words. So I think I rewrote this chapter most of the times, and that was just extremely difficult. And then, of course, so at the beginning, like Captain Barbarous invites Adol, who is like a simple sailor, to his cabin, invites him to sit down and says, "I really apologize, but would you mind like doing some kind of chore?" So on a real ship, captains don't talk this way to their crew. So I don't think they ever address any of the crew except to punish them for something. And just kind of how do I transfer? And I wanted this book to be not only faithful to the game, but realistic. So I spent enormous amount of time figuring out how would they actually be able to have this conversation, at least so no apologizing, no going to the cabin, no sitting down when the captain is standing, but just something that would sound like realistic. And the other thing, all the nautical terms. I'm not fluent in that. So I have a friend who actually worked on a sail ship. And this friend gave me a crash course on everything nautical. So I had several very long conversations. And then she checked all these chapters and also the ones on Captain Reed's ship to make sure I got it all correct. I think that was one most difficult chapter to write. And then I guess another one, so there's a lot of fighting in the game. And if you try to describe all the fights with all the monsters, it's going to be repetitive and boring. So I know a lot of fans were saying, like, where's all the action? Like, why is the final battle only taking like 1 page? And that was kind of, this balance was difficult for me. So I chose to describe several fights in great details, including the aftermath of what happens if a spider stings you, or a kind of a T-Rex actually grips you with their claws. But
You'd think, after, if somebody playing the game, when you're doing all these fights, you have to realize, like, for the most part, you're hitting the same buttons over and over. Like, if you tried to novelize all of that, I think even the hardcore fans of the action scenes would get bored with that.
Right.
Yeah, you can only
describe a sword slashing through a monster so many different ways before you're repeating yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not all Robert Jordan that could describe
that's
a chair in a room for 7
20 pages,
8 pages. Yeah, exactly. That gets very monotonous very fast. So you definitely.
So we know you like Ys a lot. Are there other RPG series that you are a particularly big fan of?
So I started with very old games. So I loved like this first series, like King's Quest and Quest for Glory. I don't know if any of you remember that.
King's Quest for sure. Yeah,
I love
my favorite one in 2000s was Might and Magic. So
okay.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you even played that. So my recent other favorite is Zelda games, and somehow I didn't realize I didn't play the first Zelda, so I so I'm now in the kind of current games like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. I never realized how much story is in there. So I know, of course, there's a movie coming out soon.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of deep hidden lore, I would say, in Zelda's games.
Yeah, right. So Zelda is kind of another series that I think is very interesting.
I would love to get your take.
Falcom games?
I think, Emily is going to talk about it.
So I look forward to playing Trails in the Sky. I never played any other Falcom games.
That was my ulterior motive for wanting to do this interview. It's like, we got to introduce her if she doesn't know Trails. We got to introduce Anna to Trails.
I'd love to get your take on that one day. If
when we talked at the beginning about like playing a game and being like, man, I would love to read a novel of this or write a novel of this. For me, it's like the Trails series. It is the like epitome of the like I've described it as a series of fantasy novels in video game form, and that's just but highly recommend that when that comes out, the first one.
But I imagine the Falcom would be a lot more strict on how they would want that novelization done, because that is like their I think because of just
almost how all the games are, they build off each other. And so if anything is a little bit off, maybe the first novelization is not consistent, it's very difficult because of just the world they built.
I felt very lucky that Trails in the Sky, it was the first game, right? So it's coming out
exactly.
here. So I did want to start at the beginning.
It's a perfect
makes
one.
sense.
It's the perfect on-ramp.
In terms of so Trails are set like historically in a little bit later period of kind of equivalent of human history, right? So
it's kind of a mix. Like it's a fantasy world, but they're like sort of in the middle of an industrial revolution when the games start. And
they'll have cell phones too later on.
Yeah, like the trajectory of their development technologically is so much faster than ours. So it's really interesting to see, like in Trails in the Sky, there's like, airships, but for the most part, it feels like kind of medieval in a lot of ways. Yeah. And then you get to the latest entries in the story and they've got cell phones and cars and,
it's 5 years later.
It's been like 8 years at most. Yeah. So it's like, it's very interesting. But anyway, I was just curious if you... I
think as a fantasy author, I prefer medieval. And I think for one reason, because before the guns were invented, because describing gunfights is not nearly as fun to me. I do love sword fighting. I actually took a lot of sword fighting lessons to write and then it's to me gunfighting. So Hamel is an exception, I guess.
That's true.
That was my barrier, I think. But
I look forward. Luckily, I think Trails keeps a balance of the types of characters that would use like maybe a gun.
Plenty of swords. Don't worry.
There's so many swords or staffs of sorts, like more scientific staffs, like magic staffs type things like that.
Yeah, I think as a scientist, your take on the orbit system might be really interesting too.
Okay.
And Trails.
Which
is their kind of magic.
Like how the magic works, and as we're still trying to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Trails community, I heard, is a lot tougher.
Oh boy, that's gonna be the hard part. I think is the Trails community is a lot more intense about.
They are. It's. I don't even think it's like that many that are.
They're just vocal.
It's a very vocal
intense,
minority,
but they're vocal. The broader community is cool, but like there's that very vocal small group that's so loud. So loud.
It's very loud, extremely loud.
Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy Trails in the Sky when it comes out.
I think so.
No, I do look forward to it. Yeah.
So if you had the opportunity to work on any other, like say RPG or other game, doesn't have to be an RPG, novelization, pie in the sky kind of deal, what would you pick?
Well, probably Zelda.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Have you read some of the Zelda books that are out? Because I know a couple of them have lore books, or there's like some manga too.
Yeah, they have manga.
So they're also like not novelizations of the games, right?
No.
Correct, yeah.
No.
So, no.
They have like manga versions of the games.
Okay.
Adaptations, yeah.
But they're like, there's only so much you can add with that isn't like novelization completely.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit different still.
Risking, of course, disapproval of fans, but manga is not my favorite genre. So.
Yeah, no.
No, yeah, it's quite a bit different than what a novelization would be anyway. So
exactly. I can't imagine it would be interesting trying to work with Nintendo on that too, because Nintendo's very.
That would be a whole different ball game, I think, than Falcom. I don't see Nintendo being flexible.
They are very protective about everything. So it would be it'd be very interesting, but I would love to see that.
I think is VIII is kind of, I really fell in love with this game. So to me, I really did it because I really, really wanted to, without any other considerations. And I think it has to be like this for any other game.
The passion project, I think, really makes it stand out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's very serendipitous that like how that came about in terms of just this.
I'm glad it did.
Just kind of, I feel like in some ways maybe I was meant to do this.
Exactly.
Pieces fell into place, and
the series of events that had to happen for you to actually end up playing that game.
It's very cool.
And then falling in love with it is very it's cool. It's almost fantasy in itself.
Pandemics.
There has to be a pandemic. There has to be a Switch involved. It's very, fantastical situation, but it actually happened.
It's kind of amazing.
So after Ys 8, what's your favorite Ys title that you've played?
Ooh, yes.
Well, so in terms as a gamer, I actually really like Memories of Silseta, which I know is an unpopular choice.
I like Silseta.
It's like this is the game where people are divided. So, but as a story, probably Ys 9 because it has incredibly deep characters. So it has like it's almost too desperate, but it's just it's such a good story. It's like perfect.
They're a bit older too. Like I'm sure that would be interesting to write about when Aldo's older and other characters too.
Yeah.
I found it curious actually that after this they went to Adol being like 17 years old again.
I know.
Yeah. Right.
Go way back. Yeah. They always seem to take like little tentative steps into the future, and then they kind of pull back, and then a little bit more, and then
we were talking about that in a previous episode where we did specifically about Ys, and how much we would love to see like a more grittier.
Give me old man Adol.
Old man, quote unquote old man.
Quote. I mean, he'd be like 45. I don't know.
He'd be like 45.
Ancient in anime years.
No.
The old age is 22, I think.
He's past his prime. He's older than 20. Forget it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But so you have a new project that is coming soon that's just been announced as of when anybody's watching this. So can you tell us a little bit about your new project?
Yeah, so we just announced novelization of Ys 9, which is was kind of a very natural continuation of this the previous one. So this project so I did love Ys 9 when I played it, but I almost felt like writing a novel based on that game is extremely challenging. And I think because it's a much darker story. So firstly, it's kind of confined to this one place, and the tension all comes like from inside. So the story is very dark, and if you start thinking into any of the characters, it gets almost too desperate for like a romance author to tackle because it's just, I mean, you I would like even leave Aprilis alone, which is kind of this total desperation, I guess. Every character has an extremely difficult life and difficult story, and all this kind of healing that happens, even though the ending is satisfying, so it can never be a completely happy ending just because of that. So I was measuring up myself for writing this book all this time. It was a long time after I finished VIII, and eventually I decided that I can do it. And by now, of course, I'm so much into it. So the novel has been completed and it's now being edited. And I'm so kind of in this world that it's kind of, I mean, it's a whole different, I guess, level of feeling. So then I feel like, oh, his VIII story was so easy, kind of. Yeah, but I think
well, it's good to stretch yourself, How did you approach writing, say, Adal, who is, a decent bit older than, he was in VIII? And I mean, obviously you had the context of the other games that you had played since then, but how did your approach to him change, if at all?
Yeah, so it was really interesting because, again, I had to get into his character, but so he is, older than almost everyone else on his team. And he has this kind of, so he looks at people and he kind of knows where they're coming from. So all this experience. So I have to say it came naturally. So I just had to get into the character. I had to imagine like now I'm Adal who kind of changed with all these experiences, and what would he do? What would he say to Hawk? Yeah. Hawk, by the way, is like really amazing character. Just like their dynamics with Adal is just kind of out of this world. So I think it ended up being natural, but it is a markedly different place to come from. When he's the oldest and the most experienced, and kind of everybody in a way looks up to him for advice, and even like people who, like Aprilis, also kind of consider him as equal. So it was very interesting.
Very cool. Yeah, 9 and 8 are constantly fighting it out in my head for the position of favorite. In terms of story, especially. So I'm personally very excited to read it. I've been excited to read it since I finished 8. So I've been waiting, crossing my fingers. I'm very glad that it's on its way.
It's kind of, I always think in colors. So VIII is all these bright colors and like very nice scenery. So VIII is all dark. And so I have to say, I had to do a lot of research. So I was fortunate that last summer my family traveled abroad. So we went to France. And of course, Glee and Balduc are inspired by France and by Paris. So I kind of tried to soak into this atmosphere, to go to this like dark alleys and old castles and kind of get this, And then I also visited a prison just to make sure that how to, and that was kind of an experience that kind of I had to recover from it for weeks.
Oh, man.
It was really helpful, I think, to get into kind of what it was like for Adal to be in prison. Right.
Was it a prison? It was prison here or prison in France?
So I live near Philadelphia, so it was Eastern State Penitentiary, which is built like a castle, and there's kind of, I mean, it's not the same, but there's a lot of similarities there.
Wow.
We just like think of like, for example, solitary confinement, the way Adal had it. In later like parts of the game, it was kind of, I learned a lot.
So it's a lot more outside, I guess, research to incorporate that into this experience, into this book and everything.
That's cool.
So that is cool. That is very interesting and difficult, I imagine, especially going to the prison.
It's very emotional. It's just like every time you get into some scene and like you kind of think through, you don't even have to write it, but you think through to the end of it. It's just like, oh my God. So I really,
Wow, that's amazing. I'm super excited.
Dedication.
For that, yes, I do love 9 as well, and I think the story for 9 warrants a novelization. And so I'm excited.
Amazing story.
I'm definitely excited to read that.
Thank you.
So where would you like to see Ease go in the future? Now that we have Proud Nordics around the corner,
Well,
to be localized.
Older adult, but maybe like the 23, not 45 necessarily. But what happened after IX, for example?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
That's
also,
true, yeah.
as a
Cool.
romance author, of course, it's very difficult because IX doesn't have an obvious romance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably my first book where kind of there will not be a main character's love story. And I know with Abdallah it's very challenging because, I mean, he has to continue from game to game. You can't have him fall in love every time. I mean, he's
No.
That's
done
true.
with girls.
Yeah.
So.
Serial love stories. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think about Adolf? He did that.
You know, one question that I've wanted to ask you since I read the novel originally a couple of years ago, whenever it was, is, you know, have you thought at all about the possibility of, you know, crafting new adult stories that aren't necessarily based on a game? Because we know from the lore of East that he had hundreds of adventures, and you know, they've made 10 games in 40 years, so I don't think they're going to cover they're not likely to cover all of them in a game. Has that crossed your mind? Have you thought about that at all? Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, they're very tempting. So, for example, the Emperor of Rome is a very amazing character, actually, who kind of briefly is implied in IX. And I would love like to have a story about Adolf kind of somehow connecting with the Emperor of Rome. And I would love to see a story where maybe some of the previous characters would emerge, like Franz and Laxia would be my Hummel. And I think, I mean, Credo, of course, is just one of my favorites now. But of course, it's not game material. I think in the games, there's always a new cast of characters. So I don't think there's a story which I think they should make a game out of this story. But there's definitely very interesting stories that could happen with like what we already know, somewhere like maybe after IX again. Because,
or seeing some of the characters, you know, from the different games come together in some other story would be kind of cool.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, I would think there would be broader community interest in something like that. I can only speak for myself, but
I would love to see
very cool. Yeah,
forgotten chapters.
Yeah,
right. I mean, there's so much story and so much world there. And,
I know.
So many possibilities.
So much untapped. Yeah, there's so much untapped story from that world. So it'd be great.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, Anna, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time and hope you had an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. It was great. It's always feels really special to talk to people who know East and love it as much as
I know. Yeah, that's part of the reason we did this podcast. Is like we just want to talk to people about the stuff we like. So so totally understand that sentiment for sure.
So thank you. It has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes,
and thank every one of you. We should tell the audience to check out East VIII Novelization if you haven't already. It's available, I think, in hardcover and audiobook, softcover. So definitely check it out.
And if you like fantasy or fantasy romance, check out the rest of her books.
Yeah,
there's plenty. Yes, there's plenty out there.
And there's a cookbook too.
And a cookbook. And if you want to try cooking like you're on a deserted island,
so your dinner plans are also covered. That's the moral of the story.
Exactly. All of the
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time, listening or watching. Thanks again, as always, to our members for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. And hope you will stick around for our next episode. Well, don't stick around. Go do something in the week in between now and then. But come back and listen to our next episode as well.
Yeah.
Please.
Stuck the landing. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.